There we go. All right. So, I'm sorry for the bounce. So, if you'll notice, I'm streaming live here. I am recording here. So, because Instagram only allows me to post these videos for 24 hours, I am recording them as well. So, if you ever see me looking down, it's because I am looking down for the recording, looking up for the stream live. So, tonight, first of all, let me thank everybody who has watched the post and commented on the post and engaged on the post. I'm very appreciative of the feedback, of the comments, because what it does is validate the fact that I am doing something that people respect and people need. So what I want to do tonight, especially, we've talked about various topics, and you'll see in the next couple of IGTVs, I have started to try to move to that forum, and with that I am trying to capture the things that I think that are going to be most important to you. So the next couple of forums are going to be about sexual positions that work best for men and for women. So what I want to do tonight is make sure that you have the information about what it is that I do as a coach. So we're talking about what it means to work with a coach. So back in the day, there were limited options of what you could do to actually successfully get any sexual concerns or issues that you had resolved. So most people went to their family, they went to their friends, or they went to a therapist. So when you go to your family and friends to ask questions, all you're really doing is getting their perspective based on their experiences. Their experiences don't necessarily match your experiences. So the advice that you might get may be good, it may be bad, it may apply, it may not apply. Let's not do good or bad. It may apply or it may not apply. So when you're having these conversations with people, if they are not quality trained and qualified to answer your questions, just take it honestly as their personal experience and what it is that they do in order to cope with whatever the situation is. When you are in a position to deal with a therapist, perhaps, especially back in the day, and even now, because I'll probably say about 6 months ago, I went to a SAR, which is a sexual attitude reassessment. Your SAR is an opportunity for you to kind of like take a real assessment of who you are as a sexual being. When that happens, you are not necessarily the person that you think you may be, because you have labeled yourself, or you've bottled yourself in a position to kind of conform. And the biggest question when it comes to sexuality is, am I normal? In fact, I got a question today, and I was so appreciative of it, is whether or not, in my relationship, I don't kiss. We don't like to kiss, but we've been together for so long. You're perfectly normal if that's okay in your relationship. So when you're working with a therapist is going to not necessarily, they're not trained on just sex. They're trained on mental issues. And I will tell you that I am not a therapist. I am a coach. So what happens is, and not just a coach, I want to specify that I am a certified sex coach. And when you deal with certifications, when you're dealing with anybody, you want to make sure that they have the proper credentials. You really want to make sure they have the proper credentials, because you don't want to get just advice from anybody. So tonight we are talking about what it means to work with and have a relationship, a professional relationship with a certified sex coach. Anyone can call themselves a coach, but when you're working with a coach, whether it be a sports coach, a financial coach, a life coach, what it means is to teach, inspire, and bring out the best person in you that you can be. And right now we're really just talking about sex as the subject matter. But coaching happens in all aspects of our lives, right? So being credentialed and working with someone who has gone through the process of getting their certification. So for example, with me, I spent 18 months, a year and a half, going through an intensive training certification at Sex Coach University, where I learned about sexuality and the issues that people face and the things that people go through. And more importantly, what I learned is how to be in a position to help people be their better sexual selves. So, when you are in a situation where sex is grown, and again, I always talk about 18 and over, grown folks conversation. It is something that we all at some point, most of us experience, right? So when we experience it, some of us, not all of us, but some of us could be living our best sexual lives. There could be no complaints. You are having every sexual fantasy that you want. You could be getting all the sex that you want and need, everything. It could be perfect in your eyes. And you may feel like you know everything about sex. So you really can't relate to somebody who doesn't orgasm easily, or men that complain about premature or delayed ejaculation, or people who have body image issues, who aren't really even comfortable within themselves enough to have sex with the lights on. They can't connect to that. You can't perhaps connect to somebody who has pain during sex, where sex that is normal for you perhaps is completely uncomfortable for someone else. Or couples that just stop having sex. It's like you perhaps cannot fathom why it is that if you're in a committed relationship, why you would not be having sex. It's not something that you could possibly imagine. But there are those out there that have that concern. Even the concern that one person perhaps is just not enough for you in your relationship. And there are those of us who have conquered that particular problem. Swinging, swapping, poly, there are a ton of different things that go on in different people's lifestyles that not all of us can relate to. But that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone, even in your best situation, is 100% happy. Even if you think that you're having the best sex of your life, it doesn't mean that it can't get better. And for those people, it's like, okay, well, what can I do to take it from here to here, right? So if you are a person who has concerns, even some of the concerns that I laid out, and that was just a small snippet of what people have concerns about. If you're a person that has sexual concerns, it may be hard for you to find someone that you can actually talk to. So, I know that sex is a very personal thing for a lot of people. I know people that don't even like to talk about sex because it is so intimate. And, they have their right to their privacy. But a lot of times what happens is that you want somebody that you can reach out to. You want somebody that you can ask questions to. And you want somebody that can actually help you. Not just be a listening ear, but somebody that can help you get to the place that you're trying to be. So when I get a DM, which I get a lot of DMs, and most of the time people are asking questions about some of the topics that we talked about, like, how can I make my girlfriend orgasm, or how can I elongate my ejaculation? Or how is it that, my masturbation techniques, how do they affect my sex life when I'm with my partner? Those questions happen, but, you're working with a level of anonymity when you're talking to a person that you see on the internet, me, on a very superficial basis. What I do in those instances is provide a very generic answer to anybody's question, because at that point I don't really know the ins and outs of what you do, what you need to do, what happens with you, how you even got to the state of where you are. So we talk about what it means to work with a sex coach. Now, if you have questions or concerns, I will help you as best as I can from a very high level standpoint. But if you decide to work with a coach, with someone who is certified by a body, an authorized body, to come in and assess what is concerning you and help you figure out how to get you to that next level, because again, the job of a coach is to teach, to inspire, and to get you to where you want to be, to make you your best self. That is the goal of a coach. I am here to help. The first step, of course, is to reach out. I can't help you if I don't know that there is something that you need help with. So when you go through the process of taking the first step, it always reminds me, and this is so, I promise you this is bad, but the first step of being an alcoholic is to say, I'm an alcoholic. You have to claim it. You have to say that there is something in my life that isn't quite right, and you want to be the person to take the steps to make it better. It won't get better if you're not the person that wants to make that change. And that is not just about sex. That's about any aspect of your life. If you are not the person that's willing and wanting to make the change, there is nothing that's going to happen that's going to make you a better person. You are the driving force into what makes you the better you. I promise you, you have to believe that. If you don't, you can't wait for the world and your friends and your family and everybody else to do it for you. It's just not going to happen. So again, the first step is to reach out to somebody that you trust, somebody that you are willing to build a rapport with, somebody that you are willing to take a chance on. Because anytime when you meet a new doctor, a new pharmacist, a new mechanic, you have to be willing to put your, whatever that problem is, you have to be willing to put your faith and your trust in that person to be able to resolve your problem. Now, coaching is not a one and done thing. Like I recently, anecdote, have a problem where my driver's side window won't roll down. Or it will roll down, it won't roll back up. So I was like, I can't just park my car on the street and it won't go back up. So I have to really find somebody that I trust. The first mechanic that I went to, he was like, oh yeah, this is going to be a problem. It's going to be $75. If it's a small problem, this window could be broke. This one, he was putting on the sales pitch. And if I didn't know any better, I could have bought it all. So what you have to do is evaluate the person that you are trying to do business with. So once you reach out, understand that when you're working with me, certified sex coach through Sex Coach University, there is no judgment. I don't judge anything that anybody does or that you are particularly into. And I'll tell you why. I have 2 restrictions that I know of so far that I am willing to negate a relationship with a client for, not a patient, because I'm not a therapist, not a patient, a client for. If you have interest in children or animals, I can't deal with it because children and animals can't give consent. Other than that, I'm good. So there is no judgment. So this is a safe space where you can talk to someone about the things that are inquisitive to you, important to you, are problems for you, curiosities for you, and things that you really, really, really want to resolve, to bring yourself up to the next level, to bring yourself up to be that person that has their best sexual experiences most of the time. And I say most of the time because all the time is an absolute, and that is not a guarantee that I can promise you. There will be times where sex is not great. It's not going to be that mind-blowing experience that you expected it to be, but it doesn't mean that it wasn't something that was significant to you. So, some of you have reached out, and this is my opportunity to kind of tell you how my business, I always do this, KNKY works. KNKY stands for Know the New Kinky You. Know the New Kinky You is really all about taking yourself from where you are and bringing yourself to the next level, whatever that level is. And as you're willing to grow, and as you're willing to develop, and as you're willing to explore, and as you're willing to expand yourself, be willing to be open to yourself, to your partner, and to whatever those experiences may hold. So, typical rundown. Someone will send me a DM and they'll ask a question. And I'm good with answering very general, generic questions. Same type of things that I would do on Instagram, on YouTube. These conversations, nothing that I'm saying right now is specific to you. I don't know you. I don't know your issues. I don't know your concerns. I don't know your questions. I don't know your problems. But what I know about people is that there are commonalities between us that allow me to speak in terms that can reach masses, right? You may or may not be applicable to what it is that I'm saying. So if it is that you have the opportunity to peruse the YouTube site or peruse my website, the Facebook site, join the Facebook group, any of the social media, any of the business activities that I do, if you're able to go onto those sites and view the content and say, you know what, Shanae, you've helped me. Thank you. I am right back with you like you're welcome. I appreciate the fact that you even visited the site to look at the content and see whether or not it was something that was helpful to you. And if it was, you have made my day. I am so appreciative of you and everything that you've done so far. Because what you've done is take a step in a direction to improve your situation. And that is the goal of this. But if for happenstance, you go on a video that's posted and you're not able to get all of your questions answered, if you're not able to discern your specific situation, then the only thing that I can say is reach out and ask for a consultation. I offer a refundable, not free, but a refundable $45 30-minute virtual session. So we'll either get on Hangouts or FaceTime, or we can do Zoom, we can do Skype, whatever it is that works. We can figure out a virtual situation where you and I can interact sort of like this, but I'm not talking out into the universe. I'm talking to you as a person, and we're talking about your specific concerns. We're talking about you. And when we have that dialogue, and the reason why it's refundable is if you miss your appointment, I scheduled it. I had it set up. If you miss it for whatever reason, especially without canceling, then you don't get your money back. If you go ahead, schedule your appointment, pay for your appointment, make your appointment, I will give you your money back, regardless of whether or not you decide to continue coaching. But that is the stickler for me to be saying, this person is serious about what it is that they are trying to do. So again, there's no judgment. Anything you want to talk about, we talk about. But the first 30 minutes are refundable by $45. I provide some very preliminary information based on the 30 minutes that we have. 30 minutes is not a long time to have this conversation. So for instance, these lives probably last 30 minutes. I try to keep them a little shorter because y'all have short attention spans, but we work on it. And if you have the opportunity to have a one-on-one, it's more dedicated conversation towards you and what it is that you are wanting and willing to talk about. After that initial session, what it is that we do, if you decide that you want to perhaps continue, then we can work on a preliminary schedule, right? And so we start the process of what coaching actually is. It's a rapport, it's a relationship, it is a means to an end to get you to be your best self. So after that initial session, I will email you two things. I will email you a coaching agreement. That coaching agreement is basically something that says we're going to work together. We're going to be partners in making sure that your goals get met. I'm also going to email you a sexual history assessment. Now, what that assessment is intended to create a profile for you because, again, we're just meeting, but I need to know certain information about you in order to help you be your best self. So the form will cover things like your earliest sexual memory. So one question is like, when do you remember first masturbating? If you're a female, when did you first come on your cycle? All of these things, like you will talk about very early stuff. It'll talk about influences from your childhood that now influence your sexuality. So for instance, and I just had this conversation the other day, so I find it funny, but were your parents or the people that you were around affectionate? Did they hug each other, kiss each other? Because, if you're not around that type of activity as an adult, you might not find it as comfortable or as normal as other people. So it could be, not necessarily, but could be a factor in how you interact with your adult relationships. What are those influences from your childhood? How do they affect you today as an adult? What is your sexual history? Like, have you had sex with one person, 5 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, 2,000? Plus, it doesn't matter. What did those experiences mean to you? And how is it that you have dealt with them? How is it that you have reacted to them? How is it that they contribute to your current situation? Your sexual history, your sexual desires, your likes as well as your dislikes. Then we focus on your goals. What from a coaching situation are you really trying to accomplish? Because again, sometimes on the surface, you think there's one thing that you're trying to get done. Oh, I want to be able to speak more assertively about what it is that I want in the bedroom with my partner. My partner doesn't listen to me, and it feels like sex is one-sided. And this is a true life example. If you feel like sex is one-sided and you're the only person that's giving, then you have to evaluate not only your sex life, but the relationship as a whole. You have to identify whether or not the things that you're giving, are they more than what you're willing to give? And why are you putting yourself in that situation? It is something that is important to talk about. It is something that is important to understand. But sometimes if you're the only person listening, the only person talking, and not having that receiver that is willing to work with you to help you figure it all out, then you're just going through the motions, and it's not necessarily a good thing, because now you feel like you're left alone in the world. A coach is here. I am here. Shanae Jones, certified sex coach, is here to help people through those things. So understand, at the end, the goal is to figure out what you're really trying to achieve, what your real goals are, and how it is that we can help you achieve it. I will admit the process can be difficult because it requires you to reflect on your past, your present, and your future. In order for a coach to be effective, you must be honest with yourself and with your coach, with me. Because I can't help you really resolve the issues that you're trying to resolve, the curiosities, the questions that you're trying to resolve, if I'm working on false information. So it really does require you to be vulnerable. But if you put in the work, just like everything you've probably ever heard, anything in life worth having is worth working hard for. It's worth fighting for. You have to put in the work. If you're not willing to do that, you're not ever going to get what you want, whether it's with me or with anybody else. You have to be willing to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to put yourself out there in order to achieve the results that you want. You're going to have to be. So, if you decide after this point, because again, it's hard. It's hard to move past, especially as adults or, older adults. I consider myself an older adult. As an older adult, you feel like you're kind of stuck in your ways and this is how things are going to be forever. And you can't teach old dogs new tricks. That is bullshit. I'm going to say it explicitly, and I don't apologize for cursing because that's kind of my nature, but I try to keep it reined in because this is the internet. You can be whatever you want to be. I am a constant learner, a constant student. I want to be someone who always is working on making myself a better self. And I hope, and this is in all areas and aspects of my life, I hope that you all are also taking that approach to how it is that you deal with you. Sex is that thing that keeps humanity going, but it doesn't have to be enjoyable to make a baby. A lot of us have sex and we never make a baby. I've had sex, I don't know how many times in my life, and I got one kid. So, what I was about to say is that if I would have a whole lot of babies if we were talking about the number of times I've had sex in my life. But I have one child. So it's not just about procreation. It's about enjoyment. It's about satisfaction. It's about making sure that there is a component of your life that you are happy, content, satisfied, and hopefully exuberant with, as far as it goes when you're trying to be your best sexual self. If you decide to go through the assessment and do the evaluation and put yourself on the line and say, I need help, I want somebody to be in my corner and be that person to help me, I offer services at a fee. So let's not think that this is free, because this is a business. Coaching sessions are $95 an hour. If you choose to book in at least 3-hour increments, it's a $10 per hour discount for minimum 3 hours or more for every session that you book. But I will say that coaching is not intended to be a lifelong commitment. I'm not billing your insurance. I understand this comes out of your pocket. This is not something that should be a easy decision for you. This is something that you should think about whether your commitment is there, because my commitment is there and you need to match my commitment. If you're not willing to do that, then you probably shouldn't reach out to somebody that is going to put their selves, their reputation, their certifications, their livelihood on the line for you. Don't do it if you're not willing to put yourself out there. Everything that we do, once we decide to work together as client and coach, is to figure out why it is that you are having perhaps blocks that are preventing you from being where you want to be on your own. It's about a collaborative thing. It's not just me telling you what you want to do. It's about us working together to really identify what it is that you want to achieve. Coaching is, again, it's not a long-term solution. It's not something that is a lifelong commitment where you think that this is something that I have to do. It's not that. It's how long is this working for me? And once you achieve your goals, all we need to do is check in occasionally to make sure that you are still on track to be where you want to be. But keep in mind that once you're a client of mine, I am always there for you. You can text me a month later, a quarter later, a year later, and we'll have that rapport. We'll be that coach and client, coach and coachee, coach client relationship. I will always be there for you. So what I wanted to do was give you a bit of a background, not just on Instagram. I post information, and again, I'm so appreciative of everybody that joins in and provides comments and provides feedback on the Instagram post. Keep in mind though that what I want to do is, so I'm speaking up here now, not down here, is that the Instagram stories are 24 hours. And for a long while, I was just doing that. I would just do that. But what I decided to do is to start to record the Instagram lives. So tomorrow on YouTube, this video will be available. So if you didn't get a chance to view the whole thing, or you want to view it later, you'll be able to view it on YouTube. I hope that you subscribe to YouTube so that you can see this video as well as all my other videos. I would appreciate it. So in closing, across all social media, it is at DOYOU KNKY. KNKY stands for Know the New Kinky You. Visit the website. We have revamped it recently, and I think it's great. There's a recent blog that's gotten a lot of attention on cat's sexual position. If you don't know what cats is, I suggest you go to the blog to read it, and you'll be well informed. I'm Sinead Jones. This is KNKY, which stands for Know the New Kinky You. I will see you again next week on Wednesday at 10 o'clock, and I appreciate you for joining me.